Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Kopser. I'm coming to you right now from Austin, Texas, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, Tom, to accept your invitation to talk to you all about the opportunities in Chicago and the entire region to be a part of the ever-growing national security innovation scene. So as you know, as far back as 1950, nearly 1/3 of the R&D in the entire country came from the military and our budgets to be able to keep up with the earliest days of the Cold War, and then of course our race with the Soviets into space. But now, today, fast forwarding the clock, R&D from the federal government and the US military is less than 3%, which means that the private sector has made up that difference over the last 5-6 decades. What's more important, and not enough people in business, academia, and in society today appreciate, is the fact that our vulnerabilities keeping us secure, but our vulnerabilities are actually more intrusive, more vulnerable than ever before because of the fact that we're so reliant upon technology for our everyday world. As we tell this story right now, we have concerns about whether or not the Soviets actually have the ability to be able to put nuclear weapons into space or to drop them from space. That kind of a threat involves not just traditional military, but impacts every bit of our ability to communicate, our ability to distribute energy, to be able to move money, to be able to move goods, to be able to move people. All parts of society are impacted. And here's where you come in, Chicago, because of your reach. Now, as a Texan, I gotta say, we say you're the third or fourth largest city, and we'll let Houston figure it out whether or not you all are, and you all can battle that out some other day. But I know for a fact that the diverse industrial base that you have in your community, and number one, the number of people and the amount of talent you have in the region with millions of people, you have the human capital necessary to be able to mobilize, if you choose, around national security innovation. In addition to that, the finance sector, the number of corporate headquarters, the amount of resources at your disposal, when you point it in the direction of working with university, of which the Chicagoland area has thousands of students coming out every year with not only the talent, but also the interest to be able to be involved in national security in a way they didn't think before. And then finally, you have the opportunity to weave it all together with the startup ecosystem. Just like in my own experience with Chicago at 1871, nearly 10, 12 years ago with Howard Tolman, the work done, Tom Day and Todd and Brandon, the work that they did with Bunker Labs, now all across the country is another great example of what Chicago can do if you muster resources together, focus on the goal, in this case, national security innovation, and bring together your collective talents. Think about what Austin has done in just the last 40 years with our tech scene, moving beyond just being a government or university town and focusing on semiconductors, focusing on cutting edge research, and then bringing the private sector in to take those technologies and commercialize them and build companies out of them. There's a reason why Elon Musk and Amazon and so many companies are moving to Central Texas, is because we very clearly indicated we want to be not just a center for innovation, but we also want to attract top talent and make it a great place to live. And then it was about 10 years ago, simultaneous to all this great growth, that the Department of Defense realized that internal to their own work, they didn't have enough of the tools, resources, and people to innovate quickly enough to stay ahead of an enemy that is no longer found just on the battlefield, but found in your phone, on your computer, in the global positioning system satellites. Now our vulnerabilities through cyber, through hacking, through AI, make it so that we, the American people, in order to stay safe, need talents from all sectors of society, which is why Austin, Texas looks so attractive to our military and the Department of Defense that they established, with our participation in 2013, the Defense Energy Summit. And you can find more about it at defenseenergy.com. And that was a rehearsal for 2 years later when the Secretary of Defense came, Ash Carter, and he said he wanted to set up a defense innovation unit, and not just in Silicon Valley and Boston where it started, but go to the center of the country. Just like Chicago is literally in the heartland of our country, they chose Austin, Texas. And then the Air Force, and then the Marine Corps, and then Navy now. And of course, the biggest player that moved in recently was the Army. A few years ago, established the first new 4-star headquarters in Austin, Texas, because they wanted to be outside the Beltway, They wanted to be in the center of the country, not just to access more talent, but as you know in Chicago, being center of the country helps in simple things like time zones and meetings and flights. Very real world practical reasons. If you want to collaborate nationwide, you've got to be center of the country. And so for all those reasons, from the history of defense innovation to the opportunities that you have in Chicago, to the opportunities that the Department of Defense are showing, just as recent as last month, they released the new National Defense Industrial Policy, in which they said that the United States, for its own national security, needs more manufacturers, small and medium businesses. And where are so many of those? They are in the Midwest. They are in the center of our country. You all are naturally positioned, literally and figuratively, to lead the way in defense innovation. But it's got to be deliberate. It's got to be strategic. And you got to partner in ways that sometimes make people traditionally uncomfortable to be able to be sharing ideas because they see sometimes each other as competitors. But really what we need to be is in working in cooperation together for the good of our country, the good of the people, and most importantly, to be able to preserve the lives that we have today as we all pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So my name is Joseph Kopser. I've been involved in this scene now for roughly 20 to 25 years. I spent 20 years in the United States Army. Half of it was muddy boots, like you see on TV, and the other half was in that defense innovation side, looking to the military of the future. I then parlayed all those experiences into the private sector. I developed an app called Ride Scout that worked on mobility and transportation within cities. Launched it there in 1871 in Chicago over a decade ago, sold that company to Mercedes, and ever since I've been working at the intersection of helping communities work with the Department of Defense, work with academia, and to come together in a way that they don't normally do to be able to provide the resources to the warfighter, the veterans, and their families to make sure that we're always there supporting them. Again, my name is Joseph Kopser. Thank you for having me. If you want to follow me at all, it's joseph.kopser@gmail.com. And I wear a number of hats, literally, here in the Austin area, but more than anything, with my roots in Chicago at 1871, I'm happy to come up and visit you all to work with your companies, to work with government officials, whoever I need to do to help inspire you to understand the potential that you have to be a leader in the national security innovation scene, and your potential is limitless. Again, thank you very much. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but have a great rest of your evening. Take care.